Well, welcome. I think tonight's workshop, we're just hoping to debunk a little bit of the myths that, the medical care is the only way, or maybe the safest way, it's the proven way, it's the scientific way, and help you understand that your body was built by a creator, an energy that was much more powerful than you. And if you can harness that energy, it could heal. It's the most powerful physician chemical factory. It knows precisely what to do and where to do it, but it does get interfered with and interrupted. And that's why we make adjustments. But I think those adjustments, if you're not sure, you've never been to a chiropractor, or you've never experienced it, or you're just watching things on TikTok or whatever, they can look dangerous. One of the bigger reasons people don't go to the chiropractor is because either are afraid to be hurt or to feel worse. And unfortunately, just taking an aspirin every day gives you so much more risk of anything detrimental than an adjustment ever would. But yet we would do that without thinking. The truth is in the science, but I think tonight we just want to go through some things to help you to share with others that it's worth at least being assessed. We're not saying everyone needs to get adjusted, but being checked is huge. Yeah, these are some of the questions. This is great. We're going to talk to some of these. What's the popping sound? That can scare a lot of people. They just don't even want to hear it. Can you adjust yourself? How much risk is there in getting that adjustment? Why do I experience soreness? Maybe sometimes after an adjustment, you're new to this. Or even if you're not new, but you can get sore. That definitely happens. Chiropractic care stack up against other treatments. Like, what are the risks, what are the benefits with other treatments? That's what we definitely want to get into, because in most research, chiropractic care is much more effective and safe than most other forms of medical care, especially more invasive things. Adjustments are very gentle. They may not look like that sometimes, but they are very gentle. There's a part of your joints that can move past what you can do for yourself. Like if I could stretch my neck here, that's as far as I will go. But there's a zone, we call it the paraphysiological zone, in which I can make if I'm adjusting you and you're relaxed, I'm not going to blow through your muscles, I can make your neck go a little further. And it's very safe to be in that paraphysiological zone. No injury to the ligaments happens, blood vessels, muscles, tendons, nothing would happen in that zone that would be detrimental. It's a zone where your body has give. When we put it in that zone, your body has a reaction neurologically that resets and tunes you into your problems. So that's where these adjustments kind of flow in. We help when the alignment's restored, the movement is generated, the nerve flow is improved. That's that healing power. We release tension by resetting the nervous system. The basics here of the adjustment is that they can be very relaxing and even energizing and create better sleep. Temporary soreness is totally normal. If your body's been used to a position which you believe is normal that's completely crooked, and we say, hey, why don't you reset there? Well, we're probably stretching some of the tendons and ligaments in places where it hasn't for a while. It could easily be a little inflamed. We could also have maybe reset your body where immediately you got an adjustment, you felt fine, but you got home the next day and felt sore. That's because new muscles had to turn on. They weren't used to the load. You were compensating with a significant amount of muscles, and when we went back to the normal ones, they were weak and unused, and so they could get sore at first, just like a workout you haven't done for a while. Totally normal. The pop. Let's get into the pop. The pop is really just a release of air or gas. There are studies that have proven this, to be honest, but when you have a joint, let's create this like a joint I'm showing you here. This joint is full of fluid. The fluid in the joints and surrounded by ligaments kind of encapsulates it. So that fluid then helps it glide, the joints glide. And hopefully you have cartilage in there. And when you start to wear that cartilage out, that's why you start to have arthritis. With the cartilage in the fluid, you have a good joint mobility. When you have a joint that gets restricted, it's stuck, it's not moving real well, pressure kind of builds or swells in there. And if that joint needs to move and I move it quickly, if I do a quick motion to it, I would change the pressure. If you had a pressure inside the joint, that pressure would increase with an adjustment. And if you take liquid and you put it under enough pressure, what's it become? Any science buffs? Gas. Yeah. So nitrogen gas. So the nitrogen is released from the joints, and we hear that release by a pop, just like your knuckles. Okay, your knuckles will pop. That's nitrogen gas being released. When that pressure is released, that's again that cavitation, we call it. That actually vibration is healing. That's why we put you on vibration platforms, because just vibration is very healing. But it sends a signal to your brain that says pay attention. Okay, that's what those noises are. A lot of people are like, ooh, I need to get cracked, doc. We say, hey, eggs are cracked, people are adjusted. You don't really want cracked. That crack is not a crack at all. It's a release of air. It's an adjustment. If you were really having cracked bones, no one would be laying on my tables. All right, you'd always see a different person. If you were crazy enough to come back because I popped you, okay? So know those truths about what we do. Very important. Do you always need to feel it? No. You see a picture here. These are called SOT blocks. Dr. D. Jarnett was the developer of these SOT blocks, and they use very gentle force. Really, they have zero force. They use the force of gravity and fulcrums and physics to twist your your pelvis into the right place, unlocking tension throughout your whole spinal column. And many of you probably had these underneath you one way or another, face up, face down in different ways. And they don't create a pop by any means, but they can still be very, very helpful. The science behind this is really understanding that the mechanical pop can probably be a more temporary, quick feel good, but the long-term hope is we have, and why we do reassessments so regularly, is because we want to see you not just feeling better, but hopefully functioning better. Better grip strength, better balance, better mobility. Those things are important. There's people who pop all the time, but they haven't changes there. So those things are why we're assessing these and doing things that maybe aren't a pop. You might see even the little neuromechanical instrument we use, that doesn't cause people to pop. Little infants rarely ever pop. We don't really adjust infant babies. There's a couple that will come in, and if I'm tensioning out their sacrum, we will sometimes feel cavitation, and they're totally fine. Actually, they usually immediately go to the bathroom because it ties them right back into life, and they relax almost immediately. It's crazy if it is that significant. Can you adjust yourself? So if you'd say, hey, as me as a chiropractor, knowing what I know, could I adjust myself? Really, I can't. I cannot adjust myself, even me knowing all the proper understanding. But if you were trying to make yourself pop, you could definitely move and stretch, and some things will release. But as a chiropractor, if I'm evaluating your spine, I'm feeling for areas that are significantly restricted. The ones that are around there, they may be tight and you could pop them, but the ones that are restricted significantly, rarely are those something that you could adjust yourself. And even if you tried to twist or move in the right directions, it's probably unlikely that you could be relaxed enough and have the right amount of torsion, torque, and the right, we call it velocity and angulation of that to make those things happen in the right way. This is a good point. I should state this. You probably all know people, maybe you're one of these people, that, you know, they try to like force every day, boom, 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 boom. Same things are moving all the time, and they're probably almost creating what we call hypermobility. Hypermobility means that this joint, not only is it tight, it's not tight, it's actually overmobile, which causes a pain response, a spasming response, and that could become actually more arthritic eventually because it moves too much. It has more movement than it should. And so what's a body do with too much motion? Eventually it tries to stabilize it. And that can happen due to nutritional issues, honestly, too. We have plenty of people who are deficient in, we call it manganese. Manganese is a mineral we find in nuts and seeds, some green leafy vegetables, that can cause your ligaments to be too lax. Stress really takes a whooping on your ligaments. So my patients who are really exposed to stress, their joints, the SI joints, which have the biggest ligament in them, they're almost too mobile. And that's why we use the blocks and sometimes supplements with adrenals. Are there risks? Anything that has potential to help has risk. Just understand that. It's a part of what we call an informed consent. Statistics would tell us, though, you're 10 times more likely to be seriously injured driving to and from our office. 10 times more likely, all right? And there's more common with chiropractic care than some people can feel, but stiff and sore is kind of the most detrimental thing that most people feel. Serious adverse effects, like I said, are very rare. So if it's 10 times more likely to get hit on the way here, it's even less likely to have a severe accident, okay? A severe accident would be, like I said, more likely to be struck by lightning. Probably 1 in a million to 1 in 5 million is what the statistics show us. A little bit about that soreness, we did talk about that. Research would show about 20 to 50% of people can experience that, at least initially. This is why we put you on plans and regular care, because if we didn't, and you just kind of came when you needed it, you might kind of feel a post-adjustment soreness every time because your body never really was starting to correct and get into the process of healing. So if every 24 to 48 hours you need an adjustment again, and that's how long it takes for this to kind of go away, well, you might feel sore a couple times. But if the body's starting to get used to the position, you shouldn't. Any of my patients who have ever been chronically sore, they know I'm really digging into understanding why that continues to happen. And we're going to adjust techniques, we'll adjust different things, because we shouldn't see this constantly, but it's common in the beginning. Very common, as you can tell. Exercise, just like your adjustments, if you're working a muscle that's not used to it, you're gonna feel that soreness the next day or 2 or 3. So that's very common. And especially some people feel like they work their muscles, even though I didn't work them out. So this is part of this muscle retraining and muscle learning. Let's look at this. What does, if we really look at chiropractic versus traditional medicine, there's a 7-year study that was done by Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Illinois. And chiropractors served as the primary care physicians for a portion of their network. network. So their primary care was to go to their chiropractor first. Chiropractors are trained as primary care physicians. Even if it doesn't seem like many of them act that way, we are trained. All of us would have some training in primary care. So, trust the process. Even if you have any questions about things, we probably can help direct you, even if it's not something that I would help with. But what happened in the study is that the people who saw the chiropractor first as their primary mode of care, 60% less hospital administration. What's that mean? I mean, how many people have heard of people who get sick in the hospital, who get bacteria that are resistant to antibiotics in the hospital, have complications just from being in the hospital, not the fact that what they came in was less of a problem than what they came out with. So we can stay out of the hospital, you're reducing risk, huge. Obviously, let alone expense and other things. Almost 60% as well, less days in the hospital. So if you were receiving chiropractic care and ended up in the hospital, just like someone who gets regular care here, if you have a flare-up of anything, if you've been seeing me regularly, once a week, every 2 weeks, there's a chance that you're gonna have that pain less often and less severe as someone who waited till that came back up and saw me. This is why the chiropractic care is still primary care. Less surgeries, my gosh. Is surgery more risky than an adjustment? Absolutely. Any surgery you could find. Medications, like I said, even an aspirin, kills about 100 to 185,000 people a year from usually bleeding in the intestine that they didn't know about because of overuse of just painkillers. And that's not even touching the surface of the dangerous medications that are out there. Right? Medicare had a very similar study. It saved, like the Medicare system, and this I know is, this is like hits a sore spot for my Medicare patients because they go, I'm trying to, not get sick. I'm trying to do better. And Medicare won't pay for that. They won't right now. Unfortunately, Medicare only pays for acute problems. But yet, when Medicare patients access chiropractors, it reduced their visits to a primary care physician by about like 1/3 visits, which is like $83 million saved. Chiropractic care appears to be, protective against functional decline as well. Activities of daily living, increased, self-rated health, medical care. So chiropractic has been shown in Medicare research and in insurance research. So you're like, well, I still don't believe you, doc. You talk a good game, but I don't believe it. I know you're a chiropractor. What else are you going to say? Well, if we look at some of these studies, NSAIDs, which is aspirin, ibuprofen, Aleve, non-steroidal means that they're not steroids, but steroids would be in another class. Okay, but they're still all anti-inflammatories. They're used for back pain all the time. I mean, they carry risk: gastrointestinal bleeding, ulcers, cardiovascular issues long-term, serious complications, even kidney and liver. This occurs in 4% of the users annually. That's a significant amount. Opioids, sometimes prescribed for chronic pain anymore, major risks, especially for addiction. I can't remember the statistics of opioid deaths due to, addictions, but it was way outpaced any kind of serious complication chiropractors would ever have. Surgery for back pain can be effective for some, but the invasiveness, expensive, risk complications outweigh. So I know that there's so much more risk in those things. When it comes to your chiropractic care or just any process that is healthy for you, consistency matters. Rhythm and consistency. I was just talking to a patient, say, hey, are you doing some new workouts right now? She goes, oh, that's a good joke. I'd love to. I know why, and I have the hope to do it, but it's just that getting in rhythm. When we fall out of rhythm, it's so easy to lose process. So even if the pain goes away, it doesn't mean that it's gone, Feeling good does not necessarily just mean you're functioning well. It's always better to be proactive than reactive. In any situation you can imagine. An ounce of prevention is totally worth a pound of cure. This tree and the root system just always is an amazing example that it's just as much below the surface as there is above. How do you support these adjustments at home? Just remember, we're always going to tell you about eat, move, think well. So what do we have here for that? Well, first thing is you can start walking every day. Even in the cold, you could do it. Walk outside, stretch. You can do these things every day. Every day we need to move. We need to manage our stress. Deep breathing, brain tap, meditations, just slowing down to breathe. Huge. Stay hydrated, please. 70% of your body's water. Please stay hydrated. How do we eat better? The Shape Reclaim program we love. It's a great foundation of how to eat properly. Good posture, good sleep habits, lifestyle tools like that home rehab kit that we do many workshops, but how do you move your spine in gentle ways without trying to adjust yourself? We use the fulcrums. We use this disc, to do that. A foam roller, we have that on the ground. I'm not going to bend down, but the foam roller. These things are great little tools. They're not expensive that you can have huge results. If you could prevent a spinal surgery because you moved on this every day, how much would that save you? Even if you had good insurance, thousands, okay? That thing costs $50. I started with the end in mind. But, just consider sharing what you learned about chiropractic with a friend or family. In our office, I like to say that we're HFC. We stand for hope, for faith, and for caring. And, I say, hey, you've got to come here with some hope that there is a chance that you can get better. Without without hope, we lose a lot. You do have to have faith in the process, and that's why we try to teach you and help you and know that, hey, you have to have faith in your own bodies and in the process to some degree. And I promise we're going to always care for you just like family. So you have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.